Many undocumented immigrants want to own a home in the United States. These immigrants come to the US to live the American dream, and one of the biggest parts of that dream is being a homeowner. It is not impossible for undocumented immigrants to make this dream a reality. Technically, undocumented immigrants can buy a house or property in the United States. However, it's incredibly hard and almost impossible for some. I'm Andres Mejer, and I'm an immigration attorney as well as an immigrant myself. In today's video, we'll be talking about if and how undocumented immigrants can buy a house in the United States. Excuse me. If you're an undocumented immigrant in the country or someone on their immigration journey, keep watching the video till the end. You'll find out whether you can buy a house or get a loan to buy a house as an undocumented immigrant. You will also learn about what mortgages are and how they work, as well as Itins in the process of buying a home. Stay tuned. As always, if you can find this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel, checking out our other videos, and share this with other people who you think it might help. Let's get into it. The question is, can undocumented immigrants buy houses in the United States? The short answer is yes. There is no law that stops non-US residents from buying property in the country. In fact, the Fair Housing Act is a law that makes it illegal for housing providers to discriminate. Housing providers cannot refuse to rent or sell a home to people based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, or disability. This law was passed in 1968 as a follow-up to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964. The FHA allows people like undocumented immigrants to purchase houses. But does that mean it is easy for legal immigrants to buy houses? Nope, not by a long shot. To begin with, let's talk about why undocumented immigrants buy houses in the first place. It's important to have a roof over your head, but why don't these people choose to rent instead? Well, for one, owning a house is linked to stability. You never really know how things could change when you're renting. The rent could go up, your landlord could kick you out, the place just might not work for you anymore. There are many things that could go wrong, but if you own a home, you control your environment and you're independent. And best of all, you'll have one less thing, which is rent, to worry about. Other than owning a house, owning a house builds wealth over time. Property or land is expensive, and that's not likely to change. Once you've bought a house, it typically becomes more valuable over time. But undocumented immigrants buy houses isn't just good for them, it's good for the community as well. Undocumented immigrants can contribute to the budget and economy of their communities. The more houses the people buy in the area, the more valuable the area becomes. That's not all. Undocumented immigrants also contribute to the state budget. In this way, they support state funding priorities. And all of this is due to tax revenue, or the money generated through taxes. Now, you may be thinking undocumented immigrants don't pay taxes. How can they contribute to the economy? Well, this is a common misconception. Despite the legal and financial obstacles to buying homes, many undocumented immigrants do in fact buy homes and property. They also pay taxes on them. Let's talk numbers. According to the Migration Policy Institute, MPI, 28% of the undocumented population owned homes in 2019. Now, I don't know about you, but that's a pretty large number. That's more than 3 million people. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy analyzed this home ownership data. According to them, undocumented immigrants contribute about $3.6 billion in property taxes alone. That's a lot of money. Why is it difficult for undocumented immigrants to buy homes? This is because you need documents that undocumented immigrants might not have. Undocumented immigrants usually do not have a social security number. They cannot work legally in the country, so most do not have proper or sufficient employment history. Without social security numbers, undocumented immigrants also typically don't have credit scores. Now, if you're buying a house and you have the money to pay for it in full, you're set. You can pay the entire amount in cash and become a homeowner. However, that's not the case for most undocumented immigrants. And it may not be cash, maybe you go, deposit in the bank, get a certified check. Either way, it's one payment. After all, houses in the US cost an average of $374,900 in 2021. And if you live in the Northeast, try double that. So what do? You get a loan, of course, or more accurately, you take out a mortgage. Let's talk about what a mortgage is and some other terms you need to know. Then we'll move on to how you, as an undocumented immigrant, can buy a house. A mortgage is a loan that you take out so that you can buy land or property, such as a house. These mortgages are given out by mortgage lenders such as banks or credit unions. So you basically go to these banks or companies and apply for a mortgage. They will loan you the money to purchase property because if you fail to meet your obligations, they can take back the property you bought. In your application, you need to show a steady income, your employment history, and tax returns. This is important because it tells the mortgage lender that you will be able to pay back the loan. The repayment plan or the time in which you must pay back the loan depends on the bank terms. It is usually around 30 years. If you miss payments or are unable to pay back the mortgage lender, they can repossess or take away your home. The mortgage lender sells off the house to get the money that you owe them. It's very important to be consistent with the mortgage payments to avoid that eventuality. So the mortgage lender loans you the money to buy the house. Then you're responsible for paying back the mortgage lender the money they paid. So this includes principal, which is the amount that the mortgage lender gave you, as well as interest, which is additional money you give to the mortgage lender at a specified rate. So say I took out a mortgage for $1,200 with an interest of 1% per month. By the way, that's 12% a year. I need to make a monthly payment of $10 to pay back the principal. However, I will have to pay an extra, say, $12 on top of the $10 to cover the interest every month. That would make my monthly payments around $22. That sounds a little tricky, but don't worry, your interest rate and mortgage payments are worked out before you take out the mortgage, so you don't have to deal with any complicated math. Now, there are two types of interest rates on mortgage. There are fixed rates and adjustable rates. A fixed rate interest does not change according to the market rates. So if the interest that is being charged is 5%, it will stay the same until you have paid back the loan. Let me explain. Imagine that you're taking out a $1,000 mortgage for a house. The time for repayment is 10 years. The monthly interest is 1%. This means that every month, the interest will be 1% of the outstanding loan balance. By outstanding loan balance, I mean the amount you still owe. So if you made one payment of $10, the outstanding loan balance will be $990. If you make another payment, the outstanding loan balance will be $980, and so on. Since this is a fixed rate mortgage, the interest will remain 1% every month for the entire 10 years. So if you pay back, let's say $10 a month, you will pay $10 every month until your loan is paid off. The amount will not go up or down. The fixed rate mortgage has its advantages. However, it is also usually higher than the initial adjustable rate mortgage. These have interest rates that start out small, like 4%, but they can go up or down by a significant amount in a short period of time. On the other hand, with Itin mortgages, you'll have to pay 7 or 8% interest. So you're paying more in interest. These are other kinds of mortgages as well, but these are the most popular options for undocumented immigrants. So far, we've gone over the basics of owning a home in the United States. There are mortgages and payments involved, and like we talked about, both can help you pay back the cost of your home over time. Now, how is the process different for undocumented immigrants? Well, look into this in this portion of the video. It'll trace every step that is involved in securing your own house. There are different ideas about whether undocumented immigrants can buy their own houses. A lot of people think it's not possible for them since they don't have documentation. But I'm here to tell you that there is a way to purchase your own home as an undocumented person in the United States. Let's get into step one. This includes getting your Itin number. Itin stands for Individual Tax Identification Number. The important thing here is that you do not have to be legalized to get an Itin. You don't need to have legal status. It's sort of a twin to Social Security number. So now those who are legally in the United States can get a Social Security. Those that are not can get an Itin. Both are 9-digit numbers that are designed and assigned by the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. For the Itin, it's a form of identification in the tax system only. Itin is given to foreign-born people who have property like houses or land in the United States. This system can also be found in other parts of the world, where residents of other countries can buy and own property. The Itin helps the holders be up to date with their tax returns and make payments. Now, you can get this number whether you are a resident or non-resident immigrant. Your legal status is not a factor. The Itin is the first thing you need to be issued to move on your journey to buy a home. Remember, the number is only for the tax system and can't be used as documentation outside of it. For example, you cannot use an Itin to prove your residency or get a Social Security. So, how do you get an Itin? The step is easy. You simply go to the IRS official site and download the W-7 form. This form is also known as the Application for IRS Individual Taxpayer Identification Number. A good thing that will make this easier for you is that it is also available in Spanish if that language is an issue for you. The form needs your basic details like your name, date of birth, place of birth, signature. Once that is done, you can mail your completed tax return along with the form. Both need to be mailed to the IRS Center for Itin Operations in Austin, Texas. You can find a specific address on the form as well. It typically takes 6 weeks for the center to process your application. After that, if all goes well, you'll get your Itin number in the mail. Step 2 is preparing to pay for the house you are looking to buy. There are 2 ways you can go about this. This process will be easy if you pay the entire house in one payment, but then you don't need a loan. You can simply contact the property dealer, work out a price, and pay for your new house. If you can't pay for the mortgage on your own, you're going to be looking for a mortgage. We talked about how mortgages work in the US previously. Let's see how they apply here. So once you have your Itin number, you can start looking into Itin loans. Providers like banks, companies, or credit card unions are the places to go for this. They are the ones that work out a deal for a mortgage loan with you. Most of these places have loans for applicants with an Itin. Some of them have specific packages for Itin loans as well. It's important to investigate all your options before choosing one. When you get into contact with the loan provider, you'll learn a lot about how this process happens. First thing is they're going to need a down payment on the house you want. What is the down payment? To put it simply, it's the initial payment you make on anything you're buying. This is separate from the entire cost you will pay in installments. So for example, you want to buy a phone that costs $1,000 after taking a loan. The lender will not give you the entire $1,000. You will have to pay a percentage of the cost yourself first. This percentage can be anywhere from 15 to 30%. Going back to our example, you're going to have to pay, let's say, $100 yourself. That's 10%. That's the down payment. You can then get a loan for the remaining amount, which is $900, and you will pay back this money to the lender in installments. Sound good? Okay. Now, this down payment needs to be given upfront when you're buying something expensive. This amount can be thought of as the buyer's own contribution to the house. The rest of the house can be paid in installments with a mortgage. As I said, the down payment is a percentage of the total cost, so it can be 10% of $100,000, which equals to $10,000. You will have to pay for this amount yourself. Now, a down payment can be a smaller percentage of the total cost, say 10%. On the other hand, it can also be a higher percentage, 30%. So why would anyone choose to give a larger down payment? Well, for one, interest rates could be lower. Also, you'll only have to get a smaller loan since you've already paid a larger portion of the cost. Naturally, your monthly payments will be lower. Again, this is only possible if you have the money in the first place. Also, you will have more money to spare for your other expenses. Most times, property dealers have fixed requirements for down payments. Let's look at some trends of how much a down payment generally is. The average down payment in America is equal to about 6% of the borrower's loan. It can go as low as 3%, and there are special circumstances like USDA loans that don't need any down payment. But that's not going to be the case for any Itin loan. For undocumented immigrants with an Itin, most lenders need 15 to 20% down payment, but it can go as high as 30% in some cases. This is higher than the 6% average of residents, way higher. They want to make sure you have more equity in the home in case you fail to make a payment. You can calculate what 20% or 30% of the total cost of your selected home is and get the amount ready. Your next step can be done side by side when preparing for the down payment. This step deals with documents. When you get in contact with a loan provider, they will ask you for a lot of documents. It's almost like applying for immigration. They just want more and more and more and more. Sorry, it's a fact of life. Now, it includes proof of income. You can complete this requirements by showing a paycheck or pay stub for the last several months. Another document will be your employment history. Loan providers will want to see that you've been working and have been in the same position for at least 2 years. Why is this important? Well, proof that you're employed helps them know that you'll be able to pay the installments. Showing that you've been working in a stable job also provides security to the bank. You will likely also need 2 years of tax returns, and the tax returns should be filed on the same Itin number. Once again, once all this goes smoothly, you have a strong chance of being able to get your own home. You can apply for an Itin mortgage to buy the house you're looking for. You take a loan, agree on the interest rate and the payback period. Standard time is 30 years, but it can vary. The problem usually arises if an undocumented immigrant gets deported. It's a very real fear for undocumented immigrants, and it can stop them from buying a house. After all, if they can get removed from the country at any time, all their effort will go for nothing. Bruce Marks, CEO of the Neighborhood Assistance Corporation of America, talked about this. He said, people are not willing to spend as much money. They're not willing to open businesses. They're not willing to invest. And part of the reluctance to invest is investment in purchasing a house. On the other hand, this is also why many lenders do not want to give mortgages to undocumented immigrants. They are afraid they will lose money if the person gets deported and stop making payments. However, not always the case. Again, Mr. Marks said, what you see is that even when someone is deported, the mortgage payments usually get paid, said Marks. Within the immigrant community and within the family household, there's a plan B, C, and D. Who's going to live there? Who's going to take over the mortgage payments and all that stuff? Undocumented immigrants can be and are responsible homeowners. They make their mortgage payments and pay their taxes. They contribute to the U.S. economy and are an important part of their communities. We need to protect these undocumented immigrants through immigration reform. They should have the security to buy houses for themselves and for their families. That wraps up our video for today. If this video was of value to you, please consider liking and sharing with people who may find it helpful. Also, drop any immigration-related questions below. We'll try our best to provide an answer to you. You can call us today if you want to discuss your case or need help on your green card or immigration journey. We'll let you know if and how we can help. Remember, we won't take your money if we can't help you. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay healthy and be safe.